What's up, everyone? Arid Lords here. Welcome back to another Walking Dead Dead City review. This is technically for episodes 3 and 4, kind of like a double review special. I was busy for the week of July 4th, so I really couldn't make this for the episode 3 when that came out. So I figured I'd kind of bundle them together, although I'll mainly be talking about episode 4, because that's where the latest point in the story is. Um, so episode 3 was entitled People Are a Resource, and episode 4 was Everybody Gets a Prize. So we're definitely picking up the pace. In the story, because spoilers for people who don't know, Negan and the Croat have come face to face. They have infiltrated the Croats' main base of operations, but that does not yield a victory, as we probably assumed. We lose some of the red shirts of that random group that they teamed up with temporarily to get inside. And they still have not found Herschel. He only has had really one scene. There was a flashback scene, and then there was one scene where he was getting interrogated by the Croat, but there hasn't been too much with him. There was a chilling scene in episode 4 where, like, they're going to some of the torture rooms and they think that they see a dead kid, and well, it is a dead kid. They think it's Herschel, and it's not. So you see Maggie has a very pronounced reaction to that. I like Lauren Cohan's acting in that. And I think that's what I'll say for. I mean, it was true in the original series, but also here that both Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohan just give solid performances. Like, they are great actors, and so it's them at the top of their game, and that sets the stage for everybody else. And I actually do. The Croat is a very interesting kind of villain. Like, he's kind of a mix of. He has like Negan vibes, but he also is very individualistic in his own qualities in terms of his leadership style. There is that air of unpredictability to him, kind of like the old school Negan that we knew. But the surprise, I guess, for episode 4 when we open is the fact that frickin' Simon came back, which I was not expecting. Now, I should say that it was spoiled for me on Twitter. I was browsing Twitter, and one of the accounts that I follow, they're like, "Oh wow, it's so good to have Stephen Oak back," and I'm like, "Okay, well, the only reason he'd come back is to reprise his character." So, um, you can definitely tell like that they're not at the location of the sanctuary. I mean, they did a good job of recreating that kind of war room. It was like the meeting space that they had in the sanctuary, and then I don't believe we ever saw that basement area. That was entirely new. We never really saw the torture rooms. Like, there were the holding cells. Like, remember, if you remember, both Father Gabriel, Daryl, Sasha, even Dwight for a period of time, they were all in, like, these little, like, jail cells, kind of. They didn't show those. Again, I'm imagining that they did not actually film at the real sanctuary location. Um, it was probably just a makeshift area. And we do see the tortured girl, kind of unconfirmed if she actually was a spy for the kingdom. I think it was more the fact that Negan sees the torture tactics and he's horrified by it. And we have to remember, like, this is pre-Glenn. This is pre a lot of things for Negan. We don't know, and I saw some people debating this, like, is this before Simon killed all the men at the ocean side? And why was he? Because Simon's like berating the Croat, like, we don't hurt children. That's crossing a line. And people were like, isn't Simon a hypocrite? Isn't that a plot hole? But if you notice, at this point in the story, in the flashback, Simon is the third in command. So the Croat is the second. So Simon's trying to find an angle to get the power that he wants. So I think he's publicly, in front of Negan trying to make a show and saying, like, hey, look, I follow the rules, and this guy doesn't follow the rules. He's a psychopath. So, um, both Simon and the Croat are they've got lots of similarities in terms of being just incredibly psychotic individuals that take very extreme measures. And I think Simon is more of a manipulator. Like he's kind of like trying to look for an angle so he can just there's not too much loyalty there. Like there was obviously the undying loyalty to Negan, but as we saw in season 8 when the whole thing was falling apart, the loyalty did not go both ways. So with this scene, we see him trying to gain his power. But it was really cool to see that because I've been talking about, what if they made a Savior flashback story? Like, I think, like, having that whole prequel of this founding of the Saviors would just be so cool. And that scene was almost like a mini sampling of that. It's like, okay, that's 3 classic characters from the Saviors right there. And we actually, like, at a brief moment got to see the Croat interacting with, like, top, the height of the Saviors in the Sanctuary. I mean, again, they had hundreds and hundreds of people. They were a very formidable force, and there were a lot of animated characters that we came across in the storyline. So it's cool to kind of get a sampling of that. So yeah, I was surprised because it's kind of like the typical thing where they underestimate the villain. They're like, oh, we're just gonna bait him out of... It's basically Madison Square Garden, for those of you who don't know New York City, his like base of operations. We're gonna lure him out, and then they're gonna get inside, get Herschel. Like, they just kind of have like a simple strategy of how they're gonna infiltrate the base. And of course it doesn't go according to plan. Now, one thing that I'm confused about, so in episode 3 we see this where Ginny follows Negan and Maggie to New York City essentially, and there's still a lot. I don't know what the heck they're trying to do with this character, this girl who just does not talk. We saw some flashback scenes where she's bonding with Negan. There's the story he told about like her backstory in the very first episode, but like I don't know what the angle and the goal here, because I almost thought for a second that she set Maggie up, because Maggie runs back in to the structure because she sees the girl just wandering around, and then the girl gets trapped in the fighting ring and they have to like break out and get out of the walker situation when all the walkers start pouring into the stadium. So I didn't understand. Like, I almost was like, I was like, gee, like you would almost think she's like working for the Croat, which I'm not ruling that out, to be quite honest. Like, I have 2 theories at this point. Either she's the daughter of the Croat, which is like my first theory. Maybe because we know, like, from what Negan said, like the Croat lost his family, and then Negan kind of brought this guy back to life, and he found his purpose being a torturer for the Saviors. So maybe like his daughter didn't die, and this is like his mute daughter. Now, ethically, Ginny is from Asian descent, and the Croat is what, like Slavic? Like Simon in the flashback, Simon calls him like the crazy Slavic or something, like going right after his ethnicity. I was just like, oh, all right, well that's getting back into the Simon character. So ethically, it wouldn't make sense unless the Croat's wife was of Asian descent. Maybe, like, that's my theory, perhaps. I mean, I don't know how that would add up because of her age. I'm just trying to understand what they're doing with her character, because she doesn't talk, she has no dialogue, and she's just kind of around. And Negan, at this point in the story, Negan does not know yet that she's even in New York City, and then she even stupidly followed them to New York City. Like, why did she even do that? Like, she just wanted to be with him? Like, I don't really understand the angle of that. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to have her character not in the main city hub of where this whole story takes place. So it's like, for story purposes, yeah, she kind of has to be in the city, but like, I didn't, like, she just kind of seemed like a nuisance. Like, I'm trying to, like, I'm anticipating the meeting between the Croat and Negan. I'm trying to see if Maggie's going to find Herschel. There are these plot points that I'm invested in, and then there's just this mute girl just there. And I'm not really sure what the whole purpose of that is. So hopefully I understand that purpose, because there's definitely details they're keeping from us. And, like, I'm interested to see, like, if there's payoff with that. But, like, so far, I'm not quite invested. And the only thing I guess I'm interested is to see Negan's reaction, because he's probably going to be like, why the frig did you follow me and come all the way to the city? Like, what? So, there's that angle of it. There's also the Marshal, who was captured by the Croat. In episode 3, they had him, like, I don't know, really prove himself. Like, they threw walkers at him, and he was cuffed around a pole, and he had to, like, get out of that situation. And he shows that he's, a good fighter, obviously, if he's the leader of the Marshals. And then the Croat uses him as a bargaining chip and says, like, hey, I'll kill this Marshal as a sign of good faith. And then when Negan saves the Marshal, the Croat's like, I think, because this was a good point they brought up in the after episodes, that, like, the Croat doesn't know Negan's transformation. Like, in his mind, Negan lost, and Negan's still angry at the fact that he lost the Sanctuary. He doesn't know that Negan's undergone this anti-hero arc and kind of redeemed himself. Like, he is technically part of the group. I mean, there's really no undoing all of the things that he did, which is constantly brought up. Conversations between himself and Maggie, obviously. He has a couple with Ezekiel in that final season, which was really cool. Those characters never interacted. And to have that kind of closure between them was kind of cool during the whole Commonwealth arc. But the Croat doesn't know any of that. And in his mind, Negan is still, like, the revered Lucille swinging. Like, he even asks, like, where is Lucille? Like, like, I don't know. That's my impression of him. But, yeah, in his mind, like, he's looking for, like, the leather jacket wearing guy with the scarf, like, the iconic badass from when we first meet him. And, like, that's not the person that he sees. And I don't know if it's going to take time for him to, like, figure out that this guy is not, like, because I think, like, when he saves the Marshal, that's, like, the first indication, like, this guy's not really, like, the old Negan would have just let that guy fall to his death, but Negan saves him. And then he ends up getting captured by the friggin' guy. I almost saw that coming. I was like, as soon as he put that drill gun on the counter, I'm like, dude, this guy still wants to arrest you for freaking things that are kind of vague, but he still wants to arrest you. So, I mean, yeah, he saved his life, but I don't know if that's really enough, because this guy seems like he's just like, whatever the new Babylon or whatever the heck this freaking place is, which I still don't know. He seems very by the books on that. Like, got to follow the law of New Babylon, so therefore you're under arrest. So, I don't know. His again, it's another character who doesn't talk that much. He's not, like, he's been interrogated by the Croat, but he wasn't really giving up any information. There was some letter in episode 3 that he read, but I forget the context of that. I think that was the apartment that he went to in episode 2. Maybe that was someone he knew. I forget the context behind that. But now we've got a couple of different situations where now he has Negan captured. They've lost some members of that original group that they teamed up with, and now, like, in the previews, there's, like, some woman that I don't know who the heck she is, but there's like some woman that the Croat knows, and then it looks like there's that super mega zombie that was in all the previews. It looks like they're gonna, like, fight that fucking thing under the sewers. So from the previews I saw, that looks like what's gonna happen. But I mean, solid 2 episodes. I'm just trying to understand, like, what they're doing, some of the pieces on the board. I mean, I've appreciated the moments of development between Negan and Maggie, of understanding each other, her starting to see the little bits of humanity in him. There's evolution there. Like, that, you can't deny that. And I think that's the main crux of the whole show, is their duo. And that is what carries the show, and that's what I like. And the Croat is formidable, and having him be part of the whole savior. I mean, that was a brilliant move. If you made him just some random bad guy in New York, like, that just randomly captured Herschel, like, I don't think it would have landed. but the fact that this ties into lore from earlier, like really the peak of The Walking Dead, of the whole Savior arc, like that's really cool stuff, and I'm glad they did it. So you know, yeah, I mean, enjoyable episode. Let me know what you guys think. But I think there's only two more, right? 5 and 6. I mean, I think they only did like a episode thing, and I know there is a season 2 confirmed, so I'm not sure how many episodes there's going to be of that. But I mean, it's been enjoyable. Like honestly, it just feels like it almost feels just like bonus episodes. Like okay, like the show ended like last fall, and these are just like the extra bonus episodes I get to enjoy. So that's how I'm taking it, and that's probably how I'm gonna take the Daryl stuff. The Rick stuff is gonna be entirely different. I mean, that's gonna really feel like main show continuum. And again, because it's a 6 episode miniseries, I'm really concerned that there's not going to be like a fleshing out, because I don't know what they plan to do after. Like, what happens when all these miniseries are over, right? Like, how many seasons of these? I know Dead City is getting a season 2, but like, how many of these seasons? Like, it does again. It seems like the Rick and Michonne thing is only the 6 episodes. So like, can you really continue this universe with just the Daryl and Dead City stuff? Like, I don't know if that's enough, because then Fear the Walking Dead ends this fall. Like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like for as much as Walking Dead universe expansion, it really feels like it ended, and now it's gonna end some more. So, that's kind of how I feel about that. So, anyway, let me know your thoughts, and we'll stay tuned for more content. See you guys.